I'm DJ. I'm going to be an instructor this evening. I'm a captain here at Medford. Been here for about 3 years. So we'll go ahead and get started into some PPE. This chapter goes over PPE along with your SCBA. This evening we'll probably just have enough time to go into the PPE portion, your coat, boots, all that type of stuff. So, let's see, can anyone list the total components of the PPE? You've got, start with the boots at the bottom, and then you've got pants,
Helmet.
coat,
Nomax.
Good, yeah. Gloves.
and then
Jacket.
another portion that would be considered part of that, although it's integrated into a lot of your SCBA devices now, would be your pass device. Wasn't always that way, but most of the time these days it is. Let's see. So the helmet here, it's got protection from impact. It's also got your face and eye protection. I'll hand this around for you. So on this one, it pulls down. That probably needs to be cleaned, but you can pass that around. Let's see. So your boots as well, those are going to be not steel toe. They are tougher and now water resistant.
Are they composite too?
I believe so. Yes. So if you feel the toe of that, you don't want steel toe because it's going to cut your toes off if something falls on it. So you want it to give a little bit, but you still want it to provide some protection.
What kind of material is this?
You know, I'm not too sure the specific type. I know it's some form of leather. I believe most of them are completely made of. Most of them are made of leather. Let's see. So then you've got your as well. Most of these are also going to be leather. So they protect your hands from abrasions, cuts.
It says in this one material is leather.
Let's see. So there you'll see they're talking about the pass device as well. So your PPE only protects you so much. Obviously, if you're in what's called an IDLH environment, it's IDLH for a reason, inherently dangerous to life and health. So it only protects so long, or it protects heat up to so much. So just remember that. It's not.
Instructor, I got a question.
Go ahead.
What does IDLH stand for again? I couldn't hear you.
Inherently dangerous to life and health.
Inherently, I thought it was immediate. I thought it was immediately.
Immediately?
Maybe. I don't know. You tell me. You're teaching.
Okay.
You're right. Go on. I'm just curious.
Thank you for that. Let's see. So another thing that you want to make sure that you do periodically is inspect your PPE. Make sure there's no cuts, anything like that. You don't want it soiled with chemicals or anything like that. You want to make sure it's nice and clean every time you go into a IDLH environment.
Why does it need to be clean?
Well, you've got a couple different reasons it needs to be cleaned. So if you go in and you've got something that's on it that could easily catch fire, there's plenty of videos out there about that where someone didn't clean it and it gets so hot that the actual material or what it's been soiled with catches on fire. Can also, left on there, can degrade the integrity of the PPE over time. So you really want to wash it after every call that you go on, after every fire call that you go on. And if it's ever been exposed to blood, any type of bloodborne pathogen, you make sure you clean it as well. Did you have a question?
No, I thought I did, but you answered it. Thank you.
This is where it goes into the SCBA. Now I don't have one of those up here because we're probably not going to have time to go over the SCBA in detail. so we can do that later. But just know that that would be part of the whole ensemble. So your ensemble is going to include your coat, your boots, your Nomex, your gloves, along with the pass device and the SCBA.
So what's an SCBA and a pass device?
So the SCBA is your self-contained breathing apparatus. Sorry about that. So your pass is a personal alarm system. Basically, if it recognizes that a firefighter's been still too long, it'll go off automatically, but it also has the capability for a firefighter to activate it if they are having trouble somewhere and can't speak for whatever reason that might be.
How much pressure do you think someone would know?
The SCBAs?
Yeah.
It varies. The bottles, you're talking about the bottles?
Yeah.
It varies depending on the bottle. The ones here we use are 4,500. But you've got some that are 3,000. I think you've got some even larger than 4,500 if I'm not mistaken. But the ones you'll use here are the 4,500 bottles.
And is there different types of bottles for it?
So a lot of them used to be the steel bottles. They've kind of moved on to a composite bottle. Composite is lighter than the steel bottle, so it doesn't wear out the firefighter quite as quick. Because you got to think, once you have the whole ensemble on, including the SCBA, you're probably looking at adding at least at a minimum of 30 pounds up to 45 or 50, depending on what extra tools you're carrying. So you kind of want to cut down on that as much as you can, so going with the composite bottles really helps. Let's see. So, does anybody want to show us how to don in the proper order to don? Or at least go through it? How to don the ensemble, firefighter ensemble. You can just go through it. You don't have to
I'm just
actually
gonna do
do
it for you, bud. You put your jacket on, obviously.
Is that in order?
When you're getting your gear out of your gear bag,
Okay.
your Nomex, I put my Nomex personally in between my boots on my gear. Put that on, then I grab my jacket, or my pants, I'm sorry. Put them on, put suspenders on, then you put your jacket on, then you put your pack on, then you put your mask on, then you put your helmet on, and then your gloves, and your Nomex over your mask.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. So this is kind of going into, again, what I said with the limited amount of heat. It's only going to protect you for so long up to a certain temperature.
Why is his Nomex so far down his mask?
So the Nomex is meant to,
Isn't it just supposed to go
Protect.
around to where the sill is?
so that can vary, but you want to make sure it is over the seal. The
And
reason
not
he
over
would
your
have
eyes.
it over his eyes right here, probably just more for the picture to show people, but it also gives you some room if you're moving around and your Nomex moves, it's not going to come above the seal that you have right there. As long as this isn't impeding your view, it should be fine, although I think that's just more exaggerated. This is where it shows up in this picture. You wouldn't typically see that. Let's see, so cleaning and maintaining regularly, I was talking about. There's going to be your full ensemble. The only thing that we don't have up here with us would be the actual SCBA there. So you've got a couple of different reasons and a couple of different what this helps against. So the outer layer, that's going to be your water repellent, and then you've got 3 layers to this. So you've got your outer shell, you've got your thermal, and then this is going to be the moisture barrier. It's going to be the inside right
So
here.
that's what
Yeah,
keeps
moisture
the
barrier.
wind
Sorry.
safe, correct?
I'm sorry?
That would keep you from getting.
Correct. Now, a lot of your water is going to run off from the outside, but obviously the longer you're in there, the more saturated your coat becomes. This only goes so far, and then that's kind of where that kicks in. So that way, when this gets wet and it heats up, it doesn't end up steaming you on the inside.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see what's next here. The outer shell would also protect against cuts and abrasions. Go. So NFPA 1971 is going to be your standard for your PPE. So the helmets, they're often color coded, so you've got differences in rank or what your job is. You're always going to need to have the face shield, regardless of if it's like the one you see on the picture or if it's like the ones that we have here where they come down. It's going to protect your eyes and your face, obviously. It does have impact resistance to keep you from getting concussions or injuries if you do have something actually fall on your head. They're all going to have labels on the inside of them to show the date that they were manufactured. Because they're only good for so long. I believe it's 10 years. I believe everything in the ensemble is going to be, or your boots, your gloves, those are all 10 years, and then they need to be replaced.
From the date of manufacture.
Date of manufacturing, so you got to look at the the manufacturing date on the actual sticker. So that's going to be the Nomex. Then you've got the 3 layers like we were talking about. Let's see. Typically, they're going to match. That's not always the case. It is preferred. Obviously, you have career departments, they're going to match. And then if we're fortunate enough like we are here, they'll match, but you do see some mismatched ones from time to time. That's why it's important to make sure you keep track of it and make sure you know what your manufacturing dates are, to make sure you don't have one that's maybe expires before the other one does. So it kind of goes into the boots that provide the thermal protection along with the gloves. So we're always going to have some thermal protection as well as some abrasion protection. You're always going to want to have the wristlets here, because this needs to go not only to your wrist, it needs to go past your wrist to make sure that you're not exposed, because your wristlet, I guess, from your coat would come to there. So this kind of goes into the pass device. Typically these are all going to be integrated into your SCBA, like I was saying. So some other things that you can have, part of your PPE would be like goggles. What are some instances where you would rather use goggles compared to a face shield?
I'm sorry, what?
What are some instances where you would rather use some goggles maybe instead of the face shield?
Extrication?
Yeah.
When you're popping glass?
Especially if you have a patient and there's maybe some exposure to bloodborne pathogen. What's another thing that you might want to have underneath your gloves if you're doing extrication?
Medical gloves.
Yes. They do make specialized turnout gear specifically for extrication and some specifically for wildland. I've got some for wildland right here. They do also make a combination as well that you can get. But this would be for wildland fires. What is something that you might notice about this compared to all of that right there?
There's no thermal barrier.
I'm sorry?
No thermal barrier.
Correct.
It's not meant for,
It's a lot lighter, more flexible.
Yep.
not meant for structural firefighting.
Not meant for structural firefighting. It is a lot lighter. Obviously, if you're hiking up a mountain, trying to cut a fire line, this is going to be a lot easier to do it in than that would be. Now that does limit your range of motion as well, so you've got to make sure you understand that when you go inside, or you're using it during extrication. You're not going to have as much dexterity with the gloves as you would without gloves, obviously. So the drag rescue device, you know what that is. So that is going to be this little piece right here. You see this little flap on the back? Pull this out. So if you have a firefighter that's down, needs to be taken out of the house, it's a lot easier to grab this and pull rather than trying to do a firefighter drag with it. And also helps keep the neck and spine in line when you're dragging them using that. Let's see, radio, obviously, that would, I wouldn't say obviously, but a lot of people do consider that part of your PPE because you always want to keep a direct form of communication while you're inside. And then you've got the reflective vest as well. You'll commonly use that on extrication if you're out on the road, as well as on scene. It's also nice to have that on scene as well. Some of the scenes that you're on at night, just on the fire ground, can be dangerous, and you want to have some sort of visibility there. Let's see.
So any reflective vest would work?
Well, there's specific kinds of reflective vests that are meant to tear away. Those are required for your extrication reasons. If you have a car come by, maybe it catches the mirror, it'll make sure that the vest tears away rather than you going along with the vest. So it's not necessarily a requirement because these are okay with NFPA, but the preference would be if you can put on a vest as well. Because if you're not great about washing your stuff, this is going to end up getting dark for you. And it won't be as reflective as if you were wearing a vest. Let's see. So during the winter time, like it is right now, one of your biggest concerns when you're on a fire ground after you get done with the activities, or if you're in rehab, that's going to be pneumonia. So that's mainly because, or hypothermia / pneumonia, mainly because your gear is going to retain all of your body heat. And what's the first thing you want to do once you get done?
Take it off.
Take it off and get cool. Yeah. And so just remember that on the flip side of that, when you have this gear on for so long, some of us sweat more than others. I sweat more than others. And so what can happen is you can overexert yourself without even realizing it, because your body temperature, your core body temperature is raising beyond what it normally would be. So just keep that in mind.
So in a cold environment, what you're saying is don't take it completely off, just zip it, unzip it for a few minutes and then zip it back up to reserve your body heat.
During the summertime, try to shed as much of it as you can, reasonably. But once it's winter time, you don't want your body heat to change that rapidly. So just unzip it, like Emily said. So NFPA recommends that you don't wear any type of nylon clothing, synthetics underneath your turnout gear. The idea is if your turnout gear gets so hot, then what can happen is that can melt to your skin. All right, so doffing it. So as Emily was saying earlier, with donning it, doffing, you want to make sure you do the same thing but in repeats. So Josh, can you give us the reverse order, the doffing it portion?
Gloves, helmet, mask, Nomax, jacket, pants, boots.
Good. All right, so that's going over cleaning it. So this is kind of where it gets into different vehicle extrication stuff that is lighter. So we've kind of already gone over that. The Wildland PPE, which is a little bit different, we've already gone over that. So there's where Josh was asking about that IDLH.
I'm sorry, I think it says immediately, not inherently.
I apologize.
It's okay.
Alright, so you've got your components that make up your IDLH environment. Your immediately dangerous to life and health environment. So, smoke vapors, toxic gases, obviously the heat as well, and your smoke particles, carcinogens, some of those other, carbon monoxide. You don't want to breathe that stuff in, obviously, which is why you were in a CBA. Let's see. So, can anyone tell me what an oxygen deficient environment? How much oxygen?
Anything less than 19.5%.
Correct. Yes. So, obviously, if you have these other particles in there with your oxygen, it's going to have less oxygen in that environment. So that's, even though you may be in a room that doesn't feel as hot, you may still passing out if you don't have proper SCBA. Let's see. So then you've got the worry of your respiratory tract. If you do inhale super hot gases, you can definitely burn your respiratory tract, and it's a bad day from there. Let's see. So you've got other environments too that aren't just fire environments where you can encounter these toxic gases. That's kind of where you go into your hazmat stuff. So this would be a form of proper PPE for hazmat situations as well. Yeah. Let's see. So when are you allowed to not wear your SCBA?
After the air's been tested and overhauled.
Good. Yeah. So, does anybody have any questions about the actual structural firefighter gear? No?
Is it fireproof?
No. It is fire resistant. It can only help you for so long.
What's the temperature that it starts failing now?
I believe it varies based on how clean it is. You're gonna have some variance. I believe it's up to, I know the mask, the SCBA mask is 300 degrees. It can fail as low as 300 degrees. The turnout coat, I'm not too positive on, but I can find that specific number for you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?